humble host, Brian, Coach B. Stevens. Thank you all for being here. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you chose to be here with us today, and we appreciate you. Starting us off, we would like to bring the lovely voices of our Lotus Avinia and Miss Aaliyah, opening us up with a song.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In honor of Black History Month, Cielo Vista Charter School would like to pay respect to the motherland, Africa. Lotus Avinia, would you please bless us with a poem about the motherland, Africa?
Africa, my motherland, in you I have identified my name buried so long under the pains of separation and segregation. My eyes are seeing the excellency of the present, and my ears are hearing no more racism. Oh, Africa, revealed beyond the reigns of the past, with days of dreams and abandoned ideas. In your presence, I have discovered the memory of our being. Serving my motherland is my hobby. God bless Africa, my motherland.
Thank you so much, my sister Ashe, Ashe. Thank you, Lotus. I appreciate you, and my ancestors appreciate you. I can hear them saying, "Come by here, kumbaya." At this time, Alexandra Miramontes, please bless us with your song, Kumbaya.
Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya, Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya, oh Lord, Kumbaya.
Thank you so much, my sister Alexandra. Thank you. Ashe, Ashe. From the motherland to the Caribbean to the Americas, our songs aided us in getting through some tough times. During slavery, songs known as Negro spirituals lifted our spirits as we worked. Heard the voice of Jesus say, "Come unto me, I am the way. Keep your hand on the plow. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your hands on the plow. Hold on, hold on." You see, during the civil rights movement in the United States, young Black civil rights activists took these Negro spirituals and they simply changed the words to match the circumstances of the day. Paul and Silas were in jail, had no money for their bail. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, despite the struggles our people endured, we were determined to not let anybody turn us around. At this time, I welcome Aaliyah Payne. Will you please bless us with a song, Sister Payne?
It will be my pleasure.
Excellent. Ain't gonna
let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching down for freedom land.
Thank you, my sister Ashe, Ashe. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Aaliyah Payne, and this was a Black History Moment. Back over to you, Coach B.
Ladies, thank you for showing your talent. Let's give them a hand one more time, please. As you can see, there's a lot of talent in our district. There's a lot of talent in this land. Speaking of land, I would like to welcome Mrs. from Agua Caliente, Mrs. Christina Alanis.
Thank you, Coach B. Hold on. I got to compose myself for a second after that. That was so beautiful, Joy. And students, thank you so much for all of that. Getting us started for this day. So I just want to continue with that beautiful opening by acknowledging the lands in which we now are gathering in our district and in this beautiful conference in this space. The Palm Springs Unified School District acknowledges the Cahuilla as the original stewards of the land on which the Palm Springs Unified School District facilities now sit. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work with Indigenous people in this place. We pay our respect to the Cahuilla people, past, present, and emerging, who have been here since time immemorial. And I would like to now take this moment to welcome my dear friend and relative, John Preckwinkle III, and to bless our space here with some Cahuilla bird songs. Go ahead, John. Thank you.
My name is John Preckwinkle III. I have Patrick Schoolcraft and Michael Pete II. We are members of the local tribe and we sing our cultural songs. So we're going to give you guys a couple songs to open this up and we hope you guys enjoy. Real quick before I go into the second one, these songs are about our people's journey. In our creation story, we had to leave our homeland after our creator was killed. And we happened to find our homeland in the place where we had first began our journey. That last song was us traveling through the cold. And this next song is towards the end of our journey. We're coming up and we're seeing some beautiful scenery. And we're watching a woodpecker and a flicker bird. So the kupanil and the tavish fly around and the sun is just rising. So here we go. Oh, Padre, quiero Padre, quiero 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 Dame rayo huevo, quiero Dame rayo huevo, quiero Oh, Padre, quiero Padre, quiero Oh, Padre, quiero Padre, quiero Thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
And a man that should need no introduction, but still wears his work badge, even though he's been in this business for 30 plus years. That just lets you know, should nobody complain about wearing their work badge. All right, let's give it up for Dr. Mike Sweezy.
Thank you so much. And a big thank you to the students and staff and community members. The song was very beautiful, both by our students and by the members of the Agua Caliente band of Cahuilla Indians. Thank you so much for that blessing. You know, I commonly say this is an amazing district full of amazing people. We have some city elected officials who've joined us today. I saw Jan Pai in the room, and we also have at least 4 of our Palm Springs Unified School District board members. Karen Cornett, John Girardi, Sergio Espericueta, and Madonna Jarrell have all joined here. That's such a sign for everyone in this conference to know that our district is committed to the work that Ruby and her team have done. Doing this work takes at least 3 things: passion, knowledge, and the And we have all of those 3 things in this district. I know the passion of the people here. Today, we're here to build our knowledge because, as my friend Lasagna says, when you know better, you do better. And then after that, we continue to do the work. So welcome to today's conference. I'm so happy that all of you are here, and I'm going to turn it over back to Coach B. Again, welcome on behalf of the school district and the school board.
Let's give it up for Dr. Mike Sweezy. Thank you so much. Now, let me introduce to some of you, she is new to the district, but definitely not new to this work and this passion. Coming from Los Angeles, 49ers, Long Beach State, then got her doctorate at USC, fight on, unless you're UCLA person, that's not my business. Let's give it up for Dr. Nicole Crawford.
Thank you, Coach, for that beautiful introduction. Of course, yes, fight on as always. So I just wanted to introduce myself. I am Palm Springs Unified's Coordinator of Diversity and Racial Equity. And as Coach said, I am new to the district. I hail from Los Angeles. I've been here now for about 7 months, and it's been an awesome journey for the last 7 months. And I want to shout out Palm Springs Unified in particular because I am the only coordinator of diversity and racial equity in the entire valley. We are the first of its kind here in the desert. That means that we are the trendsetters. We are making moves that no other district is doing. So kudos to us, first and foremost. Again, I'm the coordinator, so I'm here to support you. Any principals, any parents, any students, I'm here to support. I'm a part of our conscious education team. I'm a part of our anti-racism coalition, and we're just here to do the work. I'm very proud of our accomplishments that we've done thus far, and I know that in the near future, we will continue to do so. And again, at the end of the day, this fight is for our kids, and we will continue to fight that good fight for them. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Let's give it up for Dr. Nicole Crawford. All righty, look here. I've never been able to introduce this many doctors. There's a lot of doctors in this room. I almost feel like I'm at Kaiser. But with that being said, our keynote speaker coming to us from the great state of Delaware. I had to look and see where that was on the map because that's always close. When they just say New England, they always bring up just Delaware as in New England, but I had to look. Let's give it up for, please, Dr. excuse me, I'm so sorry, Malik Muhammad.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. I am excited to be here. This has already been exciting, right? Because we heard the beautiful voices of young people. We heard from our indigenous community. We even had some folks that are against this work show up, right? Amit Sekou Touré says that if those who oppose the work are not doing anything against you, it's because you're not doing anything, right? And so if we're on this good path and we're on this journey, then it's going to call in and invite in those who are struggling on their journey. And that's all right. It's part of our community as well. So I'm excited to be here. I can tell already that I'm in the right place. And for those of you who don't know, I live in Delaware, so I'm about 3,000 miles away. And I'm missing my Palm Springs Unified School District family. I want to particularly thank my dear friend Tanisha Taylor and Ruby Rivera. Thank you so much for inviting me in once again into this journey with Palm Springs. I always dedicate a conversation that I'm going to lead. I dedicate it to someone, and this is dedicated for me to my most recent ancestor, my father. He joined the ancestors and transitioned from this life a couple months ago. His name was Bobby Ayers. He was so bad that he was born with the name Bobby, not Robert, but Bobby, and he didn't have a middle name. And he lived with us for the past 10 years. And I'm so grateful to have had him in my life. And also want to acknowledge that I'm dialing in. I'm sitting on the unceded land of the Lenape people, part of the Nanticoke Nation. And they have never given their land up, and they continue to fight, and we join them in that fight. So again, I'm excited to be here. The conversation that we're going to have this morning, we call it "To Get Further Away from Where I've Been: Equity Principles for Understanding Youth in Poverty." So we're zeroing in on understanding youth who are struggling or dealing with the context of poverty this morning. And I want to draw from a set of things. And one of those, of course, is my own personal experiences. I'm going to share a little bit about my own personal experiences. And some of those are heavily influenced from hip hop. I'm a child of hip hop, especially the golden age of hip hop. And so for me, I'm going to call into the conversation some of those brilliant words. I've already done so, in fact. And then also my professional experience, and that is working with young people who have lost their way. I have the privilege of running several alternative schools here in Delaware. So working with those young people that need special places and special people to serve them really well. Some of you know who I'm talking about. You know the kind of young people that I'm talking about. And our ancestors, especially those from indigenous communities, underscore the power of story. And so I'm going to tell a story today, and I'm going to weave and thread it throughout our conversation. And so let me share screen here, and hopefully this will work okay for us. All right, can someone just give me a thumbs up to let me know if you can see my screen okay? Is that all right? Okay, good. All right, so this, the title here actually comes from a line by CeeLo Green when he was in a group called Goody Mob, and the song is called Soul Food. And this is a variation of it. He said, "It's such a blessing when my eyes get to see the sunrise. I'm ready to begin. Another chance to get further away from where I've been, but I'll never forget everything I went through. I appreciate," and I modified the language here, "all of it," right? He says another word in there. But for me, this underscores this important work that we're doing, and this work of thinking about serving young people who also have their eyes, right, on looking at getting further away from where they've been, right? That means not just geographically, but also sort of in experience. And we're going to unpack a little bit of that. because I'm an old school teacher, I want to let you know what's in front of you for the next few minutes. I'm going to give you 6 things that I want you to write down or write on your heart. That's more important anyway, but 6 things. And I'm going to name them as we go along, right? So 6 things. So the first is that an important starting point for us is that we need to make sure that we have a holistic view of understanding this work, right? A holistic view of understanding this work. That's point number 1. First is we need to understand ourselves, right? We need to look in the mirror and understand where we're coming from in this work of equity. That is the hard work of unpacking all of that stuff that we bring, right? What we might refer to as our invisible backpack, right? So all of that stuff that we bring into schools, into our community, right? That sometimes skews how we can understand the world. You see, my friends, we all have a bit of grime on the mirror that we're in the good process of trying to wipe so we can see ourselves in the world correctly. We also need to understand the institutions, our institutions, right? How are they set up? Sometimes not in the best interest of young people, not in a way to understand and serve communities well, but to serve some other interests, right? So understand what is the intersection of those institutions. And then of course, we need to understand our students, right? Really get down to correctly seeing them for who they really are, right? Not who we necessarily want them to be or how society sees them, but who they really are, how they show up in the world. In other words, we've got to see us, we've got to see those institutions, and we've got to see them, right? Our students. So let's call that point number 1, right? Equity principle number 1, we've got to really understand where we're coming from. I'm going to call in the words of one of my favorite MCs, and that is Immortal Technique. He said, if the solution has never been to look in yourself, how is it that you expect to find it anywhere else? If the solution has never been to look within yourself, how do you possibly expect to find it anywhere else, right? That we first have to do this good, important internal work, right? Doing that important work. When we're beginning to look inside of ourselves, point number 2 is that when we're thinking about young people who are experiencing poverty, right? And I understand that the Palm Springs Unified School District has its own fair share of working with young people who experience poverty, right? And all of the districts in which we work with, and it's about 30 of them across the nation, are experiencing the same kind of context as Palm Springs, right? And there's different walks of poverty, right? There's generational poverty and rural poverty and urban poverty and absolute poverty, right? So there's in relational poverty, there's all of these different types of poverty. So we need to understand what it is that we're dealing with, but also we need to ask ourselves this question: are we talking about young people in poverty or of poverty? This is point or principle number 2. Are we talking about understanding youth in poverty or of poverty? And this is critically important because this in or of, 2 small letters, right? 2 words, but they really belie a worldview that helps us understand what our approach is going to be. You see, if we're talking about young people of poverty, then what we're really saying is that poverty is not a metaphor, right? That by definition, it means a lack of money. It is a material condition. It's not an ethical or behavioral one. Contrary to Ruby Payne's assertions, one leaves poverty when one has obtained sufficient financial resources. In other words, if I am in poverty, then once I have the resources, right, that I need for my survival and more than survival, then I'm leaving poverty. I'm not in poverty any longer. It is a real material condition. If that is the worldview that you have, it's going to indicate certain approaches that you're going to want to use when you're supporting young people that are experiencing poverty. If, on the other hand, your position is that I'm working with young people of poverty, right, then what you're understanding there is that there's a culture of the poor, which includes a value system and behavior sustained because of their adaptations to the burdens of poverty. In other words, that one may leave the material condition of poverty. I'm no longer poor, right? But I still have a poverty mindset in my mind that I take with me into the suburbs and into the NBA and into, other places, right? That impact how I'm going to show up in the world. This is an important point because how you answer this really speaks to not only how are you going to serve young people, but also how are you going to understand them in and of itself. So again, question number two, point number two is that we need to decide if we are talking about in poverty or of poverty. This, of course, can extrapolate into many other areas. But a good friend of mine named Khalif Williams is a brother who lives in Maine, of all places. Maine, by the way, y'all, is the whitest state in the entire nation, right? And so I've got this good brother named Khalif Williams, right? A Black man living in Maine. And which means that when I go to visit him, we double the minority population in Maine in and of itself, just by me being there, right? But Khalif Williams says that when we're talking about race and we're talking about poverty, it's important to recognize that the race issue is not the poverty issue just in brown skin. I'm going to say that one more time because I think it's important. When we're talking about race, the race issue is not the poverty issue just in brown skin. Right? So there's this intersectionality between these. The good work that we're already doing, that many of you are already committed to, right, is talking about, thinking about the intersection of race and poverty, sexuality, gender, all of these pieces that come together to really underscore and undergird the conditions in which we're trying to serve and those in which we're serving that live. I love this quote from another one of my favorite MCs. His name is Brother Ali. He said, "This is actually true. Now stop and imagine that it's you. Now stop imagining and unravel the truth and ask just who is it happening to? Everything that the passenger do, the driver experiences too. So if humanity is one, then we all get burned when it's hell that we're traveling through. If this good work is about trying to improve the human condition, and I argue that it is, right, then we don't have to look further than our own humanity to understand the importance of this work." Let me tell a story. I think about this when I think about the most challenging young person that I ever served. His name was Damien. And Damien was, we met when he was about 14 years old. And Damien was really struggling. He was born into a really challenging life. So I would come to understand a whole lot about his journey, right? So Damien was born into a womb of poverty. When he was born, his mother was 6 months pregnant with him when she had to put on the black dress and bury his father. So he was born 3 months after his father died. He was born into a family that was poor, and they would remain poor throughout his entire childhood. By the time they were 8, Damien was homeless, and they would move once or twice a year because of evictions. He was 10 years old the first time that he was arrested. He spent all of his middle school years in living in a U-Haul truck. And then by the time he got to 9th grade, right around the time that we started doing good work together, Damien had already gone to 11 different schools. So that's right, 9th grade, and he had gone to 11 different schools. He spent half of his 9th grade year living in a tent. And so when I think about these two principles, right, like thinking about, or these two principles so far, one is we've got to understand ourselves, our institutions, and our young people. I think about Damien, right? And who Damien was showing up into school and showing up into the institution that was supposed to serve him. And those who were trying to serve him, who was it that we were in his life, right? That he had already been betrayed by adults. So us trying to bring our vulnerability and our trust building activities and all of that to be a green light adult in this young person's life, who were we but another adult that might betray him, right? So he was bringing all of that in his invisible backpack. And we needed to understand, was Damien in poverty, right? He was experiencing the conditions of poverty, or was he of poverty, right? And that was going to help us map out exactly what it is that we were going to do with him. And so we started trying to do this good work. But what was clear was that there was a whole lot of stuff that was inside of Damien. There was a whole lot of stuff that was inside of us. And we were meeting out on that field. We were meeting out on that space together. It might have been considered school or in the community or whatever else, but we were meeting there. And there was this stuff that was showing up, and it was shame. And there's this beautiful tool that we have called the compass of shame. And I'm going to call this principle number 3, the compass of shame, understanding shame. And so what happens when we're experiencing shame is we often respond in a negative way. And so whether it's the shame of I'm coming from poverty, or the shame of I'm trying all of the best stuff that I've got with this young person and it's not working, and I feel like a failure. And I felt that many, many, many times in my career, that I've been trying everything that I've got. And I think I'm a youth whisperer, yo. I'm bad, right? I have this unique ability to talk to young people and work with them to help calm their mind, right? And get their prefrontal cortex working again and calm down their amygdala so that they're not in fight, flight, or freeze mode. I'm bad. And when that stuff doesn't work, I often feel shame. And so one way that we respond to shame is that we attack others. It's not me, it's you, and you just need to pull yourself up from your bootstraps, right? We might attack self. I just don't have what it takes, right? I'm the problem here. Other times we withdraw, which means that this experience right here is too overwhelming, that I don't want any parts of it, which means that sometimes we abandon our part of the battlefield, right? We abandon the part of the battlefield where we're serving young people and they need this good work and our contribution. Other times we avoid and we deny that there's a problem to begin with, right? And on Damien's part, he was also experiencing these same things. There was avoidance, there was attack others, right? He was a challenge and he was a problem in his community, in his family, and in the school, right? So shame was an important tool for us. The compass of shame is an important tool for us to understand where we are so that we don't have to stay there, right? It's part of that important work, right? So again, the compass of shame. So again, I'm influenced by hip hop. And so there was a group who influenced hip hop in the 90s and the 80s called the 5%ers. And they were all about doing the right math, right? And so what they would talk about is that part of the science of this work is to understand when it's appropriate to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And I want to see if this lands with you all, right? Sometimes in this equity work, it's about addition. In other words, that it's about what do we add to our repertoire, our bag of tricks, our initiatives. What do we need to add in so that we can serve well, right? So it's about addition. Other times it's about subtraction. What do we need to do away with, disband, disrupt, deconstruct, right? Stop, right? So sometimes the math is addition, sometimes the math is subtraction. Other times the math is multiplication. In other words, how do we master time and space? We have to replicate ourselves. There isn't enough of us doing good work to cover all the good work that is needed. So we have to multiply ourselves. We do that by inspiring other people, by calling people into the work, by helping them break down some of the obstacles that they have, by leaving ourselves open so that the community can come in. We multiply ourselves. But most importantly is that we invite young people into this work. That's so beautiful about today. You all said, we're not meeting in an equity conference without hearing the voices of young people, right? And that's what I think is beautiful. And then of course, division, when is that appropriate, right? That math, it's never appropriate when we're talking about people. We don't divide people, right? But when we take this big work, this big stuff, these big rocks, we need to divide them down into smaller parts so that we can accomplish them well. And we need to name every single victory of ours. So this work requires the brilliance of doing the right math, right? All right. Again, hip hop, Mos Def, one of my favorite MCs, he said, numbers is hardly real and they never have feelings. But you push too hard, even numbers got limits. Why did one straw break the camel's back? Here's the secret. The million other straws underneath it. It's all mathematics. For me, this speaks to private logic. We see young people, we see ourselves, we see our colleagues, we see people in the community, and we see the symptoms of their behavior. We don't see the million other straws underneath of it, right? And so for us to begin to explore some of those, there's a really good quote. It says that many people are heroes in a journey that we know nothing about. I'm going to say that again because it's that powerful. Many people are heroes in a journey that we know nothing about. This is what it was for Damien, right? When we began to make connections and deepen those connections with him, we began to understand the challenges that he was facing in his life, and inviting him in to tell some of those challenges and those stories. And then we challenged him ourselves. One was that he had only lived on the East Coast. And so we recognized that we needed to broaden his experiences. So at 14 years old, we took him on a cross-country trip to Arizona, the first time that he ever saw mountains. Now, y'all, I've been to Cielo Vista Charter many times, and I've walked out of the building at Cielo Vista, and I can't do anything but giggle because I'm tapping the people that are with me, and I'm like, you all get to see this mountain every single day. You live in the shadow of this mountain. This is amazing. But for Damien to be seeing mountains for the first time, this wide open space, it blew his mind. At 14, he left the East Coast for the first time and traveled across the country. 6 months later, we would have him in southern France, traveling from Nice up to Paris. You see, it took him 14 years to get to Arizona, 6 months from then to get to France. What we were doing was we were broadening his world, right? We were exponentially increasing that. He went into 10th grade with a different perspective. That perspective began to grow inside of him. Here's what it was. He began to believe the stuff that we were telling him about his potential and his leadership. So 10th grade was a different year. He actually started articulating things like, I want to be the first person in my family to go to college. That gave us the inroads to say, if you're going to do that, then we challenge you to show up in the world differently than how you're showing up now. And so he began to get much more serious about his school. He still struggled. He still had issues, but he did become the first person in his family to go to college. The first person then and the only person since in his family to go to college. So when we think about this, if those folks who are working with Damien judge their success by the last time they saw him, almost all of them would have thought that they had failed. You see, sometimes we don't get to see the fruits of our labor. And there's something called the law of the farm. And this is what should hold us and keep us warm. This is that next principle. This should hold us and keep us warm in those long, cold nights, right? When we feel despondent, when we feel discouraged. And here's what I mean by that. The law of the farm tells us that sometimes we're in the moment, we're in the season of planting. Sometimes we're in the season of the harvest. When we're in the season of planting and planting seeds, we don't necessarily know if those seeds are going to come up, if they're going to come to harvest. Our job in that moment is to plant the seeds. They're going to come up on someone else's harvest. We won't always get the opportunity to see it, but our job is to plant those seeds. Because we actually get to reap the harvest, to experience the bounty, experience the hard work and the reward of the seeds that someone else planted. In other words, when we come across a beautiful young person like Aaliyah and Lotus, right? When we come across a beautiful young person and we inherit them and we did nothing to deserve them, we're reaping the harvest of someone else's seeds, the planting that someone else did, right? So I got a chance to reap the harvest of Damien. I experienced, right, the beautiful stuff that was going on with him, the beautiful contributions that he made, because a couple years ago, I was with him when he received his doctorate. I was with him years before that when his wife received her doctorate. I was with him when their children graduated from high school. I was with him when he graduated from college with his wife, when they had a small baby in their arms. I was with him when he graduated high school. I was with him all along that way to witness the harvest of the seeds that we were planting. And here's the formula that we were using. Connection plus challenge equals change. Connection plus challenge equals change. That's the last principle. Connection plus challenge equals change. We were connecting with him along the way. That gave us the currency to challenge, ultimately lead to change, not only of him, but also of us. I know this formula works. I can count on it because I was there with Damien all along the way when we were using the formula, because I was also with him at 14 years old, when one night he quietly closed his eyes He changed his religion and changed his name from Damien to Malik. A couple months ago, my father passed away, and I told you that he lived with us. And as I was going through his stuff, I came across this picture, which is one of the oldest pictures that I have of myself. This was us living in, we had just moved from a tent into a small camper. That's my dad there. That's my mom. Why my mom is holding a knife and smoking a cigarette, I'm not sure, but that was very much my mom. And that was me. And what I always look at is that was our Charlie Brown Christmas. That was our Christmas tree, y'all. And look at my face. You see, in that moment, all I wanted to do was get further away from where I've been. But I didn't want to lose myself, and I didn't want to lose those who were with me along the way. And so I had some adults that were supporting me along the way. So I'll end with these words from Arrested Development. I never wanted things to be in reverse because God makes ways for wise travelers. My views of this world are ever growing. Thus ever growing is the way that one must view me. So thank you, my friends. Thank you for allowing me to share some words in this journey.
Let's give it up one more time for Dr. Malik Muhammad. Thank you so much, brother, for that inspiring story. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, with that being said, we now have the opportunity to learn from our community members, learn with our community members. We will be setting up breakout rooms, and we will be partnering up and splitting up into different sessions. To the presenters, let me encourage you one more time, whether you got 2, 20, act like it's 200,000. Give those words, like you said, plant those seeds. Don't get discouraged. Present, because all we need is one, right? Faith of a mustard seed. So let's go into these rooms and do our best, because this is the work that we chose to do. So with that being said, the breakout rooms will be set up. There's some information for you.
Thank you, Coach B. At this point, I will open up the breakout rooms. If you do not see the option to select a breakout room, please type in the chat or put your finger up so we can assign you to the correct breakout room. Thank you, everyone. Have fun.